Hello, my horror story lovers. Put on your headphones and get comfortable. Enjoy. Not everyone will be able to wake up after an encounter with this demon. Kira slung her leg up on the table, nearly knocking over her mug. She hated things like this. The photograph she was fiddling with showed a huge man named Viktor Sokolov, the life of the party, weighing 120 kilos, lying blue in his bed. The police theory was a domestic incident. His wife, Sveta, had smothered her pillow in her sleep. Trivial and boring. I'm not a police officer to dig into domestic incidents. Kira grumbled into the emptiness of her smoke-filled office. But Sveta, his wife, swore she hadn't killed him. That's why her family had hired Kira. Kira went to the scene, an ordinary two-room apartment in a sleeping bag. The police photos were creepy, but Kira noticed the strange marks on our Victor. They didn't look like fingerprints, more like burns from something icy. Thin, jagged line, and the expression on his face. You know, sometimes a face is surprised, sometimes angry, but his face was frozen in a moment of absolute animal horror, as if he had seen the end of the world. His wife, all in tears, was sitting in the kitchen. He's been screaming lately, she whispered. Every night he'd jump up and scream that there was someone in the room. I thought it was a squirrel, but he drank, you know. But that night I woke up to silence. He was just lying there. I touched him, and he was cold. Kira sipped her remaining coffee. Something didn't add up. There were bruises on her body. Yes, there were. Victor had beaten her. The motive was ironclad, but those marks on her neck. The key was found in the nursery. The murdered man's 8-year-old daughter, Lena, was sitting on the floor, pinned against the wall. A girl with eyes as big as whiskers. She wasn't crying. She just stared into space, hugging an old teddy bear missing one eye. Kira squatted down next to him. She smelled of coffee and tobacco. Hi, I'm Kira, she said as softly as possible. Your bear is cool. Lena didn't answer. She only clutched the toy tighter. Lena, Mom said Dad was screaming at night. Did you hear that? The girl nodded slowly. What was he screaming? Lena turned her gigantic, unchildlike eyes on her. There was emptiness in them. He was screaming for her to go away. Something about Mara. He was saying, go away, Mara. That's enough. Something inside Kira snapped. Mara? Who is this? Someone he knows? Lena shook her head. He said she comes when you sleep. He said she'll take everyone. Lena felt an unpleasant shiver run down her spine. And you saw this, Mara? Lena suddenly looked her straight in the eye and whispered. She's looking at you over your shoulder right now. Kira turned nervously. An empty hallway. An old flower wallpaper. She stood up, old, to keep her hands from shaking. Children are such dreamers. Stress, dying, a perpetually drunk dad and a drunken mother. But that look, and that's when it got really interesting. Kira, with her nose for all things mystical, smelled something fishy. Botov, not likely. That night, Kira didn't come home. She stayed at the office. Rain poured outside, washing away the grayness of the city. The computer monitor was the only source of light. She googled Mara, dream demon, and it all began. Kira fell into a real world of meeps and all sorts of creepy stories. Mara, Kiki Mara, the night strangler. And in English myths, there's an old corgi, whose essence comes to those who sleep, sits on their chest, and causes paralysis. It doesn't kill outright. It feeds on fear, feeds on life force, an ancient evil that steals the souls of those who sleep. Some history website claimed. Souls? What nonsense. But then she stumbled upon something else. Forums, people discussing sleep and paralysis, thousands of stories, and all of them were carbon copies. I woke up, but I couldn't move. My body felt like it was in concrete. I felt someone in the room. It was standing in the corner. It sat on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to die. I saw a shadow. It looked like a tall, thin woman, or just a sign of immense darkness. Goosebumps ran down my spine, like cockroaches on a hot stove. I looked up the medical term, sudden nocturnal death syndrome. Most often it affects young men, healthy ones. They just go to bed and don't wake up. The cause, officially, arrhythmia, cardiac arrest. Unofficially, in the Philippines they blame it all on a demon that sits on the chest. Kira closed her eyes. Her head was pounding. Nonsense. It was all nonsense. A coincidence. Victor just drank himself to death. His heart couldn't take it. The girl had listened to her father's drunken raving. She threw him off the cross. The office was quiet. Only the rain pounded on the eaves. She closed her eyes for just a minute, just to give them a rest. Creak. Kira opened her eyes wide. The floor in her office creaked right next to the door. She stared into the dark opening. Was it her imagination? Or was it darker than usual in the corner where her coat hung? As if someone was standing there. Someone very tall. Thin. Enough. She said it out loud. She'd done it too much. She stood up and turned on the overhead light. No one. Just the coat. But she never went home that night. For the next few days, Kira didn't read about Diamond Mara anymore. She worked. She was a damn detective. She started digging into Victor. Debts. Enemies. Nothing. An ordinary guy. A factory worker. Beat his wife. Everything. But that night in the office haunted her. If there was one death, there could be others. She dug into the archives. Political reports for the last 5 years. She wasn't looking for Mara. She was looking for death in sleep. Cause undetermined. Or sudden cardiac arrest in a healthy patient. And she found 3 cases. Everyone in her neighborhood. 2 years ago, a 38-year-old man named Sergey, healthy as an ox, went to bed and never woke up. His wife heard him suffocating. 4 years ago, a 29-year-old woman named Anya. Same thing. Death in his sleep. Left behind a small son. 5 years ago, a 17-year-old teenage. All of them complained of terrible nightmares before they died. That someone was pressing on their chest. All of them had small children or younger siblings who heard screams. Kira went to see Sergey's widow. Yes, it happened. Sergei had gone completely crazy back then. He said some old woman was choking him in his sleep. An old woman. He said it. Anya whispered to him that she would take him away. I thought he was going crazy from working so much. And then there was the heart. Kira showed her a photo of the marks on Viktor's neck. The woman was injured. Sergei had the same ones. I thought he scratched himself when he was out of breath. Kira left her on weak legs. This isn't delirium. This isn't a coincidence. This is a hunt. And now Anna knew that Kira was hot on her trail. And then the nightmares began. Kira, who usually fell asleep like a dead mammoth, was now afraid to close her eyes. The first night was a classic. That same sleep paralysis. She woke up in the middle of the night. Her body was stone. She couldn't move an arm or a leg. She could only stare. The room was flooded with moonlight. She was standing in the corner near the closet. It wasn't a shadow. It was a figure. Tall, skinny, wrapped in some dark rags. Her face was invisible. Just a dark hole under the hood. She stood and watched. Kira tried to scream. Only a stifled wheeze came out. Panic. Sticky. Cold. Like the sweat of a dead man covered her. It feeds on fear. It surfaced in her mind. She tried to fight it. Tried to think about something else. About the shopping list. About taxes. About anything. The figure slowly took a book step. Kira panicked even more. The figure stopped as if enjoying itself. And then everything was gone. Kira sighed sharply. Jumping up in bed. Drenched in sweat. The room was empty. It had been a dream. Just a stress dream. But she knew she was lying to herself. On the second night, she left the nightlight on. It didn't help. She woke up again. Paralyzed. The figure was already at the bed. She saw it. Long, bony hands. Like dry branches. And she heard a whisper. Right in her head. Tired. You're so tired. The voice was calm and lulling. Kira closed her eyes, trying to wake up, and then she felt someone's icy fingers on her throat. They just lay there. Studying. Like a surgeon studying an incision site. The cold was unbearable. It penetrated under the skin. Into the very bones. Kira howled and woke up. She was sitting on the bed, holding her throat. There was no light. The nightlight was off, although she clearly remembered turning it on. Kira stopped sleeping. Literal quantities of coffee. Cans of energy drinks. She turned into a walking zombie with red eyes. She tried to work. She had to find a way to stop this. She searched for information on how to fight Mara. The forums were full of stupid advice. Put a knife under your pillow. Sleep with your feet toward the door. Put your shirt on backwards. Nonsense. She tried to find a connection between the victims. Mutual acquaintances. The same place. Nothing. They weren't connected. The only connection. They all complained. But they grew tired. And had nightmares before Mara took them. She chose the ones who were already on the edge. The ones with weak defenses. Kira looked at her reflection in the dark monitor screen. A pale, exhausted face. Dark circles under her eyes. She was the perfect target. But Mara knew how to wait. Kira was overcome by dreams for seconds. You're walking down the office corridor. Lost in thought. And suddenly the corridor lengthens. It becomes endless. And at the end, a dark figure. You blink. Everything is fine. An ordinary corridor. She called from Petya. Asked about Lena. She's strange. Sveta cried into the phone. She barely speaks. She only draws. She draws all the time. A tall woman, in black. Kira hung up. The demon didn't just kill his victim. He was targeting the whole family. Mara was getting closer to the girl. Kira had to hold on. She sat in the kitchen with all the lights on. The radio quietly played some pop music. She spread salt around her. Another folk remedy. Nonsense. But it will be calmer this way. She looked at her hands. They were shaking. I have to sleep. At least an hour. Otherwise I'll just die of cardiac arrest. Like them. I'll ruin myself. She decided to take a nap. Right here, in the kitchen. In a hard chair. Under a bright lamp. She set the alarm on her phone. For an hour. And finally closed her eyes. Tired as hell. Kira fell asleep. Instantly. As if someone turned her off. She opened her eyes. She wasn't in the kitchen. She was lying in her bed. The room was dark. And quiet. That same thick silence. No, no, no. This is a dream. I have to wake up. She tried to move. She woke up. It's time to lie down. Wake up. Wake up. Kira, your mother. Wake up. She heard breathing. On the pillow. A couple of centimeters from her face. Someone was shaking. Slowly. A dry inhale. And a long whistling exhale. Kira squinted. In the darkness, she saw a silhouette. It was lying next to her. She turned her head towards it. There was no face. Just darkness. But she felt it smiling. You came. Bodies dried out in her head. Reality. This is what you feel. And you feel fear. Radina yaw. Like a branch from the freezer. Slowly rose and lay on her chest. Heaviness. She couldn't breathe. It's just a dream. Just a dream. I was waiting for you. I'm so hungry. The demon leaned towards her face. Kira smelled something. The smell of rot. And the chill of the grave. She no longer struggled. The fatigue was too overwhelming. And there, in that paralyzing darkness, the clutches of the demon's embrace awaited her. The one who had waited so long for his victim.